Okay, so let me ask you this, because I see this all the time and it drives me crazy. You just said that in this particular deal, because it's a value add early on, there's not going to be a lot of cash. You know, your cash and cash return, your distributions in the early years are going to be smaller, if at all, because you're going through the value add proposition. How about these guys who are out there pitching a value add deal with a 9% preferred return on day one? To me, that's a red flag that these people don't know what they're doing. I mean, how do you describe your preferred return to your investors when you're dealing with a value add? And you have to educate these people. You're not going to get that 9% on day one. We can accumulate it. We can put it in the back end, but don't expect that distribution drip, early on. Well, but these other guys are saying, hey, Mike, these guys are saying I'm going to get 9% on day one. In the first 30 days, they're going to start paying me my 9% distribution. I mean, that essentially what I'm looking at is a Ponzi scheme. I mean, they're bringing money in. They're using their own money to pay the distribution.
Yeah, I'll make that commentary on the deal. We've seen those deals for sure where there are brilliant marketers. There are, I don't know how else to put it. They're brilliant marketers. Exactly. They basically say, we'll pay you 9% or 10% annually distributions from day one. And they overraise the capital, like you said, almost like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
And they basically distribute, and investors think they're getting income distributions. In reality, they're getting return on their own capital, right? That's the reality. It's a lipstick on a pig, right? I can't put it any other way. If the deal doesn't naturally cash flow to distribute 10%, what are you doing distributing 10%? Exactly. You basically just overraise the cash, and then you're turning to investors for the perception of distribution. In reality, it is not income distribution. It is false. So I agree with you. Those type of deals are good marketers, potentially pretty bad deals, pretty bad operators on a borderline Ponzi scheme. I'm going to stop there because I know people who do this and they're good guys. And I'm going to say, listen, I wouldn't do it. You do it. Okay.
Listen, Mike, you're in safe haven here, because I know those guys too, and they are good guys. They're just walking a fine line. You got to be careful.
This is what they train the investors to do. They've trained them to 10% distributions. They've actually done all the education to basically make them feel that way. Yeah. And they basically wind up serving their own teachings. They don't have a choice. That's what they taught, and investors, that's what they want. In reality, when you do value add projects on this deal, so we gave investors a good waterfall. We did give them 8 pref, and then there are different classes of units depending how much you invest. So some top class gets 80-20, and then you get some 75-25, some get 70-30, and so on. So we have a few tiers in the deal. The deal had A, B, C, D, E tiers. We had a whole bunch of tiers. So if you write a $5 million check, you get one waterfall. If you write $2 million check, you get a different waterfall. If you write $500,000 check, you get a different waterfall. Why? Because this is basically, the bigger the check, the less work for us, the more we can pass to the investors. And we start with institutional waterfall, giving the top tier, top split, 8 pref, 80-20 over 8, until I think we had an IRR hurdle at like 18, like really high IRR hurdle. Once we get you to 18, we make a little bit more on the back end. And I think for Class A, we went to 70-30 after 18 IRR, like a really high, basically really good, but you have to write $5 million check, right? But back to the distributions. So in this deal, year 1 and 2, we could distribute some small 1-2%. I don't remember the number, very small. Practically, we're setting expectations 0. You're going to get zilch. Year 1, you're going to get zilch year 2, because I would rather set that expectation and have people understand that you're investing in this deal not for 1% cash flow year 1 or 2%, whatever the small number. You're actually investing for a couple of reasons. One, you get immediate tax benefits, which is something that is very powerful, especially for real estate professionals or those who have sold something appreciated, and then they need depreciation to offset that gain. It's the passive investment gains versus passive allocation losses. You've heard that term, pigs versus pals. Right. But you sold appreciated property, you got capital gains, you roll the money into this deal, you get capital losses, you get passive losses through depreciation, they offset each other. So one of the major benefits is the tax efficiency. The next major benefit is we actually had pretty strong IRR target on this deal. This deal had very conservative underwriting. We had IRR targets between 15 and 19, right? We basically went through the math and we came up with a range. We generally don't like to give a single number, but say it's a single number. Now, in this day and age, you could have very pretty marketed deals that look like IRR of 22% and 23%. We would rather give investors a target 15 to 19. They feel pretty good about it versus give them, 22, 23%. And this deal has every possibility of outperforming the number. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.